Welcome gamers to Master of Magic. My name is DasTactic. Welcome to this one-off video. It's going to be fairly long, I think, but I do have a lot to go through because we're going to be looking at the coming DLC, The Rise of the Soultrapped. But I find that when I'm actually live streaming it, there's a lot of people who actually don't realise that there is an official Master of Magic remake. And I guess the fear always is with people, and I had the same sort of fear, to be honest, before I started to sort of play the game, was that it was not going to be true to the original, and or at least not be 90% true to the original. And this is really what we've got. We've got a very, very true, it's not even a successor, it's a remake of the original game using modern equipment, modern graphics, better user interface. There's still some things I would love to have seen changed and added to it, but I thought I'd actually start with the base game and just go through what's different from the original, and then we'll start to put all the little pieces together and add these in over time so you can sort of see the progression, I guess, as to where we are now. Now, one of the reasons that they've got the additional content in the main game that you have to actually sort of go and manually click on if you're wanting to be using it is because there are so many purists who used to play the original 1994 game who want that experience and don't want it to be changed. And so the base game really has been designed to give you as close to that experience as you can possibly get in a modern game. So let me show you that starting point, and we'll end up getting into what the Rise of the Soultrapped actually does sort of have. So you may want to skip ahead. Look, it could be 5-10 minutes before we actually get into the changes for Rise of the Soultrapped. I'll try to remember to put in a down below. I'll try to put in some chapters so you can actually then find what you need to in the actual video itself. That'll probably make it easier. I will try very, very, very hard to remember to do that. I often forget to do that sort of stuff. Okay, let's go into it. So we've got, I'm just going to go into new game and just tell you the things that are different from the original. So new game, here we go. The first thing is we've got a lot more choices. There was only 4 choices in the original game. There was difficulty, and the difficulty has been split out now into all different capacities and different aspects. So the starting gold was part of your difficulty. For example, on normal, the starting gold was actually 75 on normal difficulty. I think even on easy it was only like 150 or something. It was in here somewhere. Anyway, that's 80 is fairly hard now in the game. Again, these have been changed. Like the actual the economy is like, I think that the hardest difficulty in the original game was only 25 gold, but I've got it set on 80. The AI skill is you can go from beginner, advanced, skilled, and master. This is actually just how well the AI will actually then go and play. Skills about my level. I find it difficult to play beyond that. The number of AI wizards, again, the original game only had between 1 and 4, and our game has also only got between 1 and 4. It's interesting because there's another mod that was actually created for Master of Magic called Caster of Magic, which was 20 years in the making, and the actual that's available as well, not as part of Master of Magic. There is actually 2 lots from Slytherin. Slytherin owns the intellectual property now for Master of Magic, and so they re-released the old versions along with Caster of Magic, as well as now a newer version of Caster of Magic called Caster of Magic for Windows. It still very much looks like a DOS version of the game, but Caster of Magic is what I think a lot of people will fondly remember when they look at a new modern Master of Magic. I was actually hoping for a Caster of Magic remake, not a Master of Magic remake, but I'm actually happy with where we are at this point in time with the franchise and where it's sort of going. I can see why they went back to the original, because Caster of Magic added a lot of things into it. For example, in Caster of Magic, you can have up to 13 players playing on the one map. And I did actually ask Myrror Games as to why they, are they going to look at expanding the number of wizards, and they don't actually have that in their, I guess, in their thought process, because they're finding that 4 gives you a very, very good long game anyway, so they don't see any real reason to add more to it. And I can understand that they've thought about it and rejected it. So that's fine. Again, they sort of think, well, the original game did that for a reason, and their game does it for a reason as well, because they followed it very, very carefully. We've got things that were never part of it, like the neutral armies. So this is the strength and spawning frequency of neutral armies roaming the world. The lair defense, you can change these as well. It was always difficult to break into lairs in the game, so I do set this one down to a low rate, like just beginner level for me. Just means that at least you can sort of get into them in the early part of the game. Magic intensity, this is another one where they did actually have only 3 levels, I think. So from 0.5, normal and powerful, we now actually have mighty and overpowering as well. I think, I'd actually almost think that weak would now be a more balanced way of playing this, to be honest. But this actually sets up the nodes and so on and so forth as well, I think. So I'll just keep it on normal in here for now. But anyway, that's I should try that with weak at some point. I might just put it on weak now because magic does become fairly overpowered. That's probably the one aspect of the game now which probably does need to be just thought of a little bit in terms of what can be done. I'll leave it on normal. Anyway, events. Now, the events in the original game, some of them were a bit broken, to be honest. And so when Muha Games were going through and actually pulling apart the original game and finding out all the different bits and pieces, they came across the original unmodified events, and so there's a setting there for those of you that really want to be playing the original game. It's actually in there. They've also got the original updated events as well. So they've got the original, but they've just been updated so that they work better. And then they've got updated and new events. They added a fair few new events themselves in as well. So they're all actually in there. The default for that one is updated in new events. Battle movement cost. Now this is actually on the battle maps themselves. In fact, over the whole game itself, the actual movement cost, or the movement of units, was typically 1 tile. Same in battle as well. But what they've done is to make the main game actually, and you don't notice it, but one thing I found when I was playing this new version was I was surprised at the pacing. It just felt better than the original game, because I had been playing a bit of the original game before playing the new version, and I just couldn't put my finger on why the pacing felt so much better. It's because they basically increased the movement rate on the world map of different units, and so you weren't stuck just going blink, 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 turn after turn with just a tiny little unit. And so it makes such a big difference just in terms of the actual gameplay without actually really impacting it doesn't feel like you're playing a different game, if you know what I mean. Like it's not dramatic, other than the pacing feels better. So I'm glad that they did that. And then to give people back what they may want in the original game, they've actually then got where in the movement cost, all tiles cost 1, or maximum cost is 2, or full cost. And what this one does is, if we hover over there, set the maximum cost of movement over difficult terrain in battle. So essentially, if it's going through forest or over hills, it's going to then sort of be it's going to slow you down. And so full cost means that it's going to extract the full amount of cost from you when you do actually hit those particular areas. World size, again, they had the same thing. They had small, medium, and large. We have very small as well now, so we can sort of play more pocket-style games. We've got the initial economy as well is normal, and through this side, this is normal. This used to be brought back into the difficulty along with starting gold and the AI skill level. So this is sort of back up from in there as well. And so this one also sets up what you start with. So there is most of the starts tend to be starting with a settler. There is actually on hard settings you start with no extras. So, but the settler was added in. Now it was part of the Caster of Magic added the settler in as well. So Caster of Magic did do that and give everyone a bit of a head start. So the game, that part of it, I think, has been borrowed from Caster of Magic. But again, you've got easy, normal, or hard, depending on how you want to sort of start off. With your starting city, with the different bits and pieces in through there as well. The starting hero, this is not part of the original, where you can actually go and choose. There's only Bashan is the only one you actually got a choice from. I don't know why it's only one, to be honest. I'm sort of always wondered why there was why it didn't give you others to then sort of go and choose from, because there's a few that aren't all that good, and I would have thought that all of those would be part of that mix. And then the number of neutral towns, this has been added in recently, where you can then go and choose how many neutral towns there were. This was not part of the original setups, but you get the idea. You can set up a game that is very, very similar to the original game. All right, let's just go back forward and just go continue. Now the wizards we see here are all the original wizards from the original game. They've pretty much got exactly the same traits, exactly the same sort of magical abilities, etc., all the way through. So they're all in here. They look great as well. If we go to customize a wizard, you can then sort of see what's going to happen in through this side. I'll just go this way. By the way, the game is quite easy to mod as well, which is a welcome change. There's no workshop for it at this point in time. I hope that will come at some stage. But there are mods that have been done for the game, and some very, very good ones. So we have the original game had what did it actually had? I think all of these were part of the original game. They had, I think it was only, was it nine? No, it was 6. Yeah, it was. This is the original, the completely the original list, exactly as per the original game. So you do actually have all of these as well. Like if we pick, say, Conjurer, just throw in some. Let's get a little bit of sorcery, a little bit of. In fact, if I go full sorcery, you've got 0 picks left. If I get rid of Conjurer, can I get another one? Yeah, I can actually get maximum sorcery in through there, for example. Let's just go that way and just see what we get. I haven't actually tried this before. Just go next. So we actually then do have choices now from all 3 areas of sorcery, if you do go and pick it that way. If we go back and start to sort of pick a few less and do pick up things like Conjurer, and I'll just go and grab one more and just go to next in through there. Actually, we've still got it. I think if you've got more than 10 down through this other side, we've got 11 at the moment. If I get rid of one more and pick Artificer as well, say. Actually, no. Then we then just get less in through here. So 10 doesn't give us it, but 11 or 12 does give us a pick from this bottom rare area of sorcery, which is interesting. So we've got common, uncommon, and rare. So these are all as per the original game as well. I don't think anything has been added. I know that some of these have been tweaked slightly to fix them up if there was a problem with them. So they have been corrected from the original, but they are very, very close. There's a couple. I think that from what I've sort of seen written, there's only just a couple of spells in all of the spells that Master of Magic have got that aren't exactly as per the original. Anyway, I'll just click on next in this instance. All the original factions, pretty much everything about them as well. Like if you go and choose them, they've got the same sort of bonuses, the same sort of units in there, the special ranges, the special racial units that they do actually have, etc., etc. They're all part of there. It's all just part of the, like as per the original game, with orcs being, I guess, the most vanilla of all of them, to be honest. This is the one that actually doesn't have any restrictions on any of the buildings, which is sort of funny. You don't think of orcs that way, but this is what the original game had. So there we go. You've got the same 5 colours that you had to choose from back in the original game as well. So just go and begin. Now the most prominent change is that we're using hexes now rather than tiles. And the way that the game used to work was, it was what was called a fat cross when you actually had a tile network. It was 3 tall, 3, like it was essentially like a square, a 2x2 square around your city with 3 across the top, 3 across the bottom, and then also down across the other side as well, essentially. So you ended up with like a fat cross sort of section in there with like, or even just think of a even bigger cross with the corners knocked out of it. So the fat cross was just an awkward way to actually be building cities. So hexes make a much bigger difference with what does go on. And as I said before, when we come back in, we do now start with a settler. And so the settlers, and you can see there the movement, settlers in the original game had a movement of 1. These have got a movement of 3, so you can start to sort of move these around, which is good. Other changes that actually do come as well, like is if we go and grab, for example, our swordsman. The game used to start with 1 swordsman, 1 spearman, I think, was the sort of the default start. If we move this one out, now when you used to have to go and attack different layers, and if we just go and do that one now, it would then just tell you what was in there. So we'll just to go and accept this one. Actually, this one's not going to do it. I'll just quickly just go to the next page. Won't care what I'm actually buying through here, but most of it is as per the original, but just with a more modern user interface, which, as I say, is very cool. So we'll close that one off. The research again is pretty much as per the original, the way that they've sort of got all this one worked out. And we'll just end our turn. So I'll just try to get what actually does happen in here. Yeah, so when you came in, what it used to do was it used to tell you what was in there, like in this case, a couple of gargoyles. It didn't give you a summary of what their actual abilities were. So you had to know what the actual gargoyles were. It didn't tell you any information about it, just said gargoyles, basically, was all it actually told you. So you didn't know what their two hit ratios were, how many characters per per little stack, and all these different bits and pieces. It also didn't give you a bit of a summary as to what the game thinks the outcome is likely to be. And so these have been added in. Now this is one that I was a bit surprised about. This is because I know that some purists didn't like having this sort of information available to them, and I don't know if you can turn that off. I certainly haven't looked for it because I like it. I've always liked having the helper. There was a way you could turn it on in later versions of Master of Magic, the original one, that would then give you the summary like this and to just give you the odds of how you're going to go in the coming battle. So I like this, but this is on by default, whereas in the original game it wasn't on by default. And as I say, you didn't actually have the information about just how difficult these things were likely to be. So anyway, it's I like what they've done here, but that's probably the major changes between the original game. And it looks heaps better, but pretty much that's really is the sort of chops and the changes between this and that. Even all the other different bits and pieces, like looking at your wizard information, it's very similar information that we see in through here than what we sort of saw in the original. Extremely well done. Anyway, let's go back to the start. Now what we'll do is we'll just add on the free add-ons. Now these add a few little things you can do with the setup of the game. So if we just go into new game in through here, what we end up getting is on the next page over, we now have a few extra stuff that wasn't there before. The minimum distance between towns. We now have a choice between 4 and 5. It's dramatic how much a difference it makes to then play with a 5-tile minimum distance between cities. It really makes the game so much more interesting. So I actually prefer this one now. This is going to be my default. It's not the default for the game, but it's my default. Also, you've then got the population growth. We can sort of ramp these up. And you can see there by default it's 1.25. So it actually makes it grow a little bit faster than what the base game actually had. So you can sort of just tweak it for you and or the AI. So this is just again more sort of balanced things have been placed into it with these extras that are coming in. Now these will be free parts of what they have. They also have a layer density as well. So set the number of layers and dungeons that appear on the world map at the start of the game. So you can sort of have whatever percentage you actually want to have in through there as well. So that's pretty cool the way that actually does work. No other changes really made to it. As I say, there have been little balance things happened with different aspects of the game, but overall it's still very much the original experience, but just with a few little tweaks now. But again, you can opt into those. Just go back out again. So that's the free add-ons, and again, you add them in. We then actually had through the Myrror update, which was a major update, which came about 6 months ago, I think. And so what these then do is these actually add even more stuff into it. And so through the Myrror brings in no other changes in any of these. So we've got the same setups that we actually just saw there just a second ago. We go continue. We've now got 4 new mages, or 4 new wizards. We've got Ras, Bianca, Tlacta and Corax. Now these are all Myrror faction leaders. So if I just go and grab, for example, Tlacta in through this side, you can see there's a few. In fact, if I go back and I'll start again. I'll go to custom. I'll just go and grab one of these in through here. And I'll just show you the new things that this is actually added in as well. So this is freely available as part of the base game. So we now actually have like 2 different pages. So we've got the original, how much was there? Original 18 that was actually part of what we actually then ended up having. And then we go across. We've now got another page where we've got Fantastic Warlord, Stonemason, Lifebringer, I Need a Hero, and Nature Summoner. So these are all different sorts of starts that you can end up sort of going with the actual game as well. So the addition with this was actually really cool. Another thing that was actually very good with this one, if I just go back and grab, I won't worry too much about what we have. We'll just go back to Myrror though. Myrror, and we'll just go mainly nature, a bit of chaos, that'll do us. Just go next, just go next and next. And the addition that they also then brought through with this one was to bring in a new race, which was the goblins, which was again a really it wasn't overpowered or anything like that. It was actually really quite balanced, and so the goblins were like a new faction that then came in at that point. So this is all sort of now just part of the update that was the through the Myrror update or whatever it was called. So we've just got like an extra one back in through there as well. So that's sort of what we ended up getting. And again, with its all unique units, unique ways of playing, it really did play very, very uniquely. Had a very fast growth rate, but they were quite weak overall. So you needed to sort of use them to do other things on the map. It was very, very, very good fun playing as these. Every race across all of the different races do play very, very differently. Anyway, let's go back. And now we get to Rise of the Soultrapped. Now, Rise of the Soultrapped is the actual paid DLC, which is coming out very, very soon. Now, what this one does is it adds a lot of new content to the game. It actually does more than Through the Mirror. Through the Mirror, I was pretty impressed with Through the Mirror, but Rise of the Soultrapped actually does add a bit more to it. So let's just go through the changes that it introduces. By the way, both Through the Mirror and also Rise of the Soultrapped have also introduced new heroes that you can pick up as well. So we'll just go into New Game, and I'll just go through and show you the differences here. So there's only one other change with the game options that comes with the DLC, and that's this one here, the mid-game Soultrap threat, which then, at a certain time in the game, it will then spawn these sort of like tech dungeons, and the tech dungeons will then spawn, soul-trapped armies to then come and sort of hunt the strongest of the wizards on the actual map itself. So I haven't played with those yet. I haven't sort of come up to where they actually are. You can have them turned off, or you can sort of have them wherever you sort of want them, really. To sort of come in with anything that you do actually like. Yeah, so it does ramp it up a little bit with whatever you sort of set up for that one in through there. Just go across to continue. The factions, we now actually have another 3 different wizards, and these all play very, very differently. What I'll do is I'll show you each of these. I'll talk a little bit about each of them, and then I'll show you a little bit of gameplay with the new thing. It really is that we've got a new faction. So if we have a look in through here, we've got Myrror. And so Myrror is the demon souled or the possessed of a dark elven sorceress of great but dangerous power. So she sort of has this demon that's with her as well. Now she has both chaos and death magic, so nothing too unusual with that. Conjurer is one of the originals, but she's got 2 new traits which were never part of the original game. One is the Myrror Refugee. It allows the wizard to begin the game with a Myrror race on Arcanus, which gives this significant advantage because the Myrror races are typically stronger. So this one we can actually go and pick one of the Myrror factions to go with her and start on Arcanus. So we start in an easier plane of existence with a more robust force right from the very, very start. But she also has Demonologist. Now, Demonologist, you need to actually have the Conjurer trait selected already and at least one spell book in Death and Chaos. So she can then pick Demonologist, and this is very, very powerful. It doesn't seem it when you read it, but what they get is they get a unit of lesser shadow demons. And these are not as strong as the big shadow demons, but they are super, super strong. They've got, for example, the lesser shadow demons can see invisibility, so they can target invisible units, like, for example, whirlwinds, or there's a dark elf fighter that's also invisible, etc. So they can actually target those. They're flying units, so they're hard to hit with anything that doesn't actually have either flying or some sort of magical, either a ranged attack or a magical attack. They've got fairly good health points as well. Like, there's a total of 8 hit points in the actual unit. They regenerate, and they've got like a lot of ranged attacks themselves. So they're fairly good at melee. They're fairly good at ranged. They're flying. They're regenerating. They're very, very strong. So you get them right from the very, very start. They only have an upkeep of 3 mana as well. It's almost a bit light on. I would think for the power that they pack, I think 5 would have been about right. 5 upkeep or 4 upkeep. I think the 3 is just not quite not quite where it should be, but for the start game, you do start off with one of these, and you start with the ability to bring them in right from the very, very start of the game. So these are, getting a few of these out early is a real game changer, because they can take over all sorts of things just on their own. So that's the Demonologist. Really, really cool the way that one does actually work. The next one across is 9/7, and so instead of 7 of 9, but 9/7 is she has chaos and sorcery spell books. Alchemy is one of the originals, so that's not new, but the Techmaster is a new, sort of like a school of magic without it actually being something that you choose books in. It's a way of getting magical spells. They call it a realm, but the realm is not the right word. It is much closer to being a school of magic that then you then pick things up with. So it allows the wizard to master the arcane powers of tech magic, mystical art that animates mechanical objects. So there's all sorts of different things. With the Techmaster, you also do start off with the ability to then bring in Dronus Scout units. Now, the Dronus Scouts are very, very good scout units, the best in the game. And so these can fly. They've got a very weak ranged attack, but they do actually have a ranged attack, and they move. I think at a rate of 4. They actually do a lot of stuff. So they're very, very cool to actually get out and see what's around you. They also have like a very good scouting range as well. So that's actually a good one to go with. And these, so that's her. And then with the last one is Grendel, who comes in with a few extra ones that we haven't seen before. So if you have a look, we saw Myrror and Refugee there with Myrror. So Myrror and Refugee allows him to sort of start on Arcanus with a group of Myrror, a Myrror faction. Warlord was originally there as well anyway, but this one doesn't specialise in magic. He's only got like a couple of magical traits that he can pick up and through here. His main ability is to be anti-magic, and so he actually has a thing called Might Makes Right. So this costs 5 picks, so it's very, very expensive. So the wizard believes in the superiority of physical prowess over the smarts of magic. All non-fantastic units, including non-fantastic heroes, gain +3 to resistance. They also gain battle regeneration, a new skill that allows units to heal in combat +2 hit points per turn. The unit stacks with regeneration. So you can stack that up. If you've got a naturally, like for example, trolls, regenerate at +1 per turn. This guy by having this particular Might Makes Right trait, you then can regenerate at +3 per turn, essentially as a troll. Extremely powerful. Like it's really is unbelievable. It's going to change the landscape a lot when you actually do play the game. So that's a big one. And then they also have Veteran Warlord, where the XP goes up very, very quickly, but you have to have Warlord selected first before you can go and choose that one. That's pretty much all of the new things that do come back through. If we just go back in, just go continue and go to custom, just choose one of these guys. Just go next, and if we go to the traits from the next page over, so the first 5 came through the Myrror, so up to Nature Summoner, and then we've got from Techmaster through with the ones we just actually had a bit of a look at just then. So that's actually where we are. Let me show you. When we do go through, if we just go back out again, just go back across. I'll just choose. I'll choose 9/7 as an example, and just go across and go to continue. I'll just leave them with whatever they're going to be choosing in here. And of course, the new faction that we actually now have on the Arcanian races is the Soultrapped. And so this is sort of like a cyborg type faction. It's not really steampunk. There certainly are some aspects that feel steampunk, but it is more sort of like a cyborg. Like I think the story is that it's like the dwarven machines combined with undead to sort of then create like this sort of faction. In fact, if I just go and click on Soultrapped, race of constructs that fell victim to dwarven experimentation with dark rune magic. The bound sentient souls into mechanical bodies fueled by organic matter. So that's sort of what they really are. And again, these have got very, very unique play styles as well, the way that they do sort of play out. They're very good at protecting against mundane sort of physical attacks, but not very good at magical attacks. So they're an interesting faction. If we just go and I'll just choose yellow or something for that particular one and just begin. But this is actually I won't begin because I'll load up some games that I've actually been sort of storing to show you how they actually fight. There's one of the most difficult fights you can do is to go up against a whirlwind, and sure enough, they're always difficult to do. So I'll show you a whirlwind fight using some of the units from the Soultrapped. And so we've got a this is an ancient temple. It's got like a lot of the Phantom Warriors, which have got the hard thing about these is that they've got illusion, which means that their attacks actually ignore any armor whatsoever. And the Soultrapped army is full of units that actually do have high armor, and so that's actually a that means that it completely ignores the armor effect that we actually do have. The big thing in here, though, is this one in here, which is the air elemental, and this is a flying unit, so it's got flight. So anything that is flying can also be attacked by this particular thing. It does a mountain of damage. It's a magical attack that it actually does use. So I'll just give a bit of a rundown as to what this one does work. The big thing it's got is invisibility. So the only way you can actually address it, and you'll see this when we go in there, is if you can see it. And the only way you can see it if you don't actually have the ability to see invisible creatures is that you need to be right next to it, which means you can't use range attacks against it. So even though it's not super powerful with this, it does a hell of a lot of damage because of the nature of what it actually does do. So it can then sort of move around. It's also got incredible movement range of 6. So these can zip around the battlefield and target all of your weaker units, which is what it does. So it will find all your weaker units and then sort of destroy them. So that's actually one of the problems we actually now have. So, but the Soultrapped have got a special unit which actually does very, very well against these type of units. So let's go and grab our army. And I'll show you these when we get into the actual fight itself. I've got a couple that are ring-ins, but we'll still bring them in, and we'll just talk a little bit about what we actually have. These aren't all of the armies. We'll just accept this. You can see there we're likely to win this, but this is I'll just command this one personally. But whirlwind attacks are usually really quite difficult to sort of see what's going on. Now, normally we can't see the whirlwind, so we just let everything else we can normally sort of see. We can see everything else except for the whirlwind. But in this case we can, because we've got a special unit on the field that actually does look at the invisible units. I know that you guys probably want this to be a little bit faster. I'll just go to 2 times faster with these. Okay, so if we think, okay, well let's target the whirlwind. We can see it there. See how I can't actually target it because I'm not standing next to it. So I can only target it with something that can see it. And so when we have a look at the actual units themselves, the Soul Cannon is a very special unit. You have to be able to build a city next to a power node, control the power node to then be able to build a building that will then build you a Soul Cannon. So it's quite involved to get one of these things. What they do actually have, though, is they've got illusions immunity, which means they can see past illusions. And so anything that's invisible will then be exposed. And so they've got a few different sorts of things in through here. Everything is vulnerable to lightning, which means going into these sorcery nodes is a bit of a tricky one, because everything in here has got like a lightning attack if it's got any sort of magical attack, which is what the whirlwinds have. So the whirlwinds do incredible damage to your Soul-Trapped army unless you've got soul cannons. So with the soul cannon, I'm just going to close that one off. These ones do reasonable damage at 9, and so we need to try to kill this thing off as much as we possibly can. It will be trying to get to this unit. So I'm going to move everything back, and because we can see it, normally we couldn't see that. It would just be there, we wouldn't even know where it was, and all of a sudden it would then just appear somewhere to then start to take out different units. Remember, it can move at 6. So I'm going to move back a little bit, and I'm just going to attack it. So this one can see it. Now we missed the first time. I need to protect this unit. I'm just going to move this one back in, so everyone's going to sort of move back across, and so none of these others can actually target that particular unit. If I move that one back in, yeah. So these here are just lizard men. This is a standard lizard men dragon turtle. These are our basic units. So we've got like this is just a like a swordsman. These are Soultrapped sword bots, but these have got very, very strong armor over time. This is cavalry for the sword bot. Again, I could attack it with cavalry, but it's going to be very hard because of the because of the attack that it can then give us back. Let's just move that one back in through here. I'm going to move this one down into this position. So I'm going to surround this because this is going to be the key to killing off this. So I don't want them breaking through here at all if I can help it. With this here, I can't target that, but I do have to kill off all of these because of that illusory attack. So I can actually hit these with the stones. And now I also want to try to protect this this group of Dark Elves as well, ultimately. So I'm going to move that one back. And then move this one in. So they may try to get into here if they could. So we'll just keep on working our way through here. And then this one as well. So these big guys are very, very strong. I should show what these actually have. So these have been leveled up over time. These are constructs. So there's a different type of, different sort of unit that you now end up getting. And these ones do very, very good melee, very good ranged attack, but only one unit. So that it's times 1. Very good hit points as well. So they're really quite survivable. And this one is now leveling up quite nicely. And so in this case, you can see there it's still got lightning vulnerability. In this case, I do actually have these decked out with mithril weapons, which do give it a better chance to hit different sort of creatures as well. So these are very, very strong. This is the strongest of the Soultrapped units. Still not as strong as some of the other factions and other units that you end up getting. Let's just end our turn there. We do also have, with the spell casting, there's I can bring things in called tech sprites. I'm going to bring one of those in. So let's just bring one of these in. This is actually from the other type of magic. If we just go and have a look and see if there's any others here, magic bullets will then give me extra ammunition. So it adds +2 to ammunition and +3 for constructs. What else do we have that's new? That's pretty much it from those different factions that we actually had. But let's just go and grab one of these. We'll cast a tech sprite and put that into the back of the map. These will become targeted by the. If that one can get around to it, it will then try to do it, but it's not going to be able to make it. Actually, that one can't see it. I'll just use this to. That's right. I always think, oh yeah, it'll be good just to fix those up. Let's just leave that one where that is. Yeah, it was lucky. We didn't take any real damage there. So these can now see it. I can actually smash this with this. Actually, no, I can't smash this unit because this one's a flying unit, so I can't use melee attacks. I can only use range attacks or breath attacks against this thing. So I have to use the soul cannon to really finish it off. That was good. I can't use that one. I can use this. So I think we'll do that. Just move that one down. The reason I can use the dragon turtle is that it's got a fire breath in through here. So that if it's attacking, it gets to use the flame breath. It doesn't if it's defending. So if we move into here, I can then use the flame breath against this thing. There we go, and we destroyed it. So that was effective. These aren't effective against it. But the soul cannons really are super effective because they can see them. If I didn't have that in the fight, we wouldn't even known where that thing was. It would just attack wherever it felt like, all the way through. I'll just finish off the battle. But this will be a very, very easy battle now to finish off. And this one as well does have a ranged attack. But that is usually a very, very difficult fight. But not anymore. But without the soul cannon, it's a very, very different story. Without the soul cannon, in fact, having the dragon turtle is a bit of a game saver there as well, if we can find it. But if it keeps on running away from that unit, it can end up killing everything. There we are. So that's a bit of an indication as to what they do. I didn't show the cavalry. The cavalry is like any other cavalry. It moves quickly. It does have very, very good physical protection. Not the greatest resistance, particularly when you first get them. These have all leveled up to maximum levels. But I thought I'd just show that just so you get a bit of a feel for the different sorts of things that do come in with it. In terms of the cities themselves, if I just press P and just go up to the next layer, this is actually where I'm building my Soultrapped. So there's another Soultrapped cannon just sitting right there. And so in this location in here, we have like 2 different locations that we now control. And from in here, I can then build these soul cannons. Now the soul cannons, if we go back into the build queue or the, I've just closed that one off. If we just go back into the city view, and so the trap cannons I think come in through here somewhere. Where are they? It's a smithy. I didn't need much to be able to then go and pick them up. Builder's Hall. Actually, it's not showing me the actual. Oh, there it is, the amplifier. And so the amplifier is a Techmage building. It's strange machinery powered by sorcery, amplifies the bonuses gained from a power node owned by the wizard and within in the city's catchment area. So we end up with +8 power and lowers unrest by -1. But it also does allow us then to build the actual. There it is there. Actually, I should have just hovered over that one through there. You can see I don't need very much to be able to then go and build this one, and then it does allow me to then, if I close that one, sorry, just go back in and go back to build, I then actually have the choice of getting the soul cannon. And all it requires is just the smithy and the amplifier, and that's it. So very, very quick and easy to then go and start to pump these things out. They're not as powerful as some units, but they do a good job, particularly because they can see invisible units. And so particularly if you're fighting, I guess, units that use invisibility, like the Dark Elves, then you can sort of do a lot with those. Anyway, I thought I'd just sort of show that bit of a fight. That way you can at least sort of see what's going on. What else is there to talk about? Some of the other things that they do actually have is, if I just go back to the armies, just try to find where I've got, yeah, these are the scout units that we end up having. So I'll just go and throw these in. So these have got like a very, very good long range that they can sort of then go and move, and they also see a lot of distance. So we're not sort of, they expose the fog of war a great amount. I don't actually have, oh, here we go, this is all unknown in through this other side. So as I move in, they see an awful lot, they move a long way, and they do actually have, these are not part of the Soultrapped. This is actually the Techmage that you needed to sort of go and select. But these are great in terms of what they can then go and do. 4 flying movement, 2 ammo, 3 damage, which is not too bad. Like, see, even that's not too bad. And it is actually a Techmage magical range attack. So it's actually, it doesn't lose over distance. It retains the like a 30% attack to hit with all 3 shots. So these can be effective. I've used these to clear out in the early game. It took me a long time, but just to clear out little areas where I just needed to have like a range unit to go and do that. Again, and it's got scouting too as well, so it sort of improves upon the actual vision of what does go on. But it's a very, very good addition to the game, extremely good. Now, a few other little things that I've just noticed, like in this particular game, I'm at turn 151 at this point in time. I've got no heroes whatsoever. And I think that it's actually been rebalanced in the game to make it much more difficult to get heroes. And I hope it is, because I really like it. This has been so much fun to play. Like the other factions, if we have a look at the, if I close that one off and go to diplomacy and have a look at the others, like Rejak, for example, has just got one unit, Gunther the Barbarian. This guy here has got heaps, so he's got 3 at this point in time. And so he's leading the whole game. He started off in the Myrror plane. That's another thing I've noticed, is that the traits from the randoms that you then bring in, they do actually randomly choose other traits, because we don't normally see Jafar starting off in the Myrror plane, and he did in this game, which again I really like. I like what I'm sort of seeing with these. These have all got sort of unusual. In fact, this one didn't have any traits; it just used all different spell books. In this case, 2 heroes in through that side. Rejak was pretty much as per usual with Infernal Power and then just all the death books. But Jafar had Myrror, Alchemy, and Fantastic Warlord. Now, Fantastic Warlord was not like this; was added in with the through the Myrror DLC. So that's actually this is a random version of Jafar just as they sort of come across. And then we've got Obrick as well, with no actual traits, but just with a lot of nature and chaos in through there as well. But it's very, very cool the way it works, and only one hero again. In turn 150, usually for me the game's pretty much done and dusted by that stage because the heroes are so overpowered. But I found that by them making it more difficult to get heroes has really made the whole game feel so much more interesting. So anyway, they've done a great job of just rebalancing and just tweaking little bits and pieces here. If that's what they've done, I don't think it was just bad luck. I choose to not think that, but I've been impressed with all of these sorts of things. So anyway, that's where we are. I don't think there's much else for me to really talk about. I think we've got it all covered. That's not too bad. I thought we'd be over an hour by the time I sort of rattled through all the different bits and pieces. I did want to cover it right from the very, very start to then sort of show if you weren't aware that Master of Magic has been remade and is very close to the original. Hopefully I've been able to explain that it actually really is, that the base game is very much like that, and also that these DLCs are very, very, they're good additions to the game, and the game is becoming much closer now towards like a Caster of Magic sort of style rendition of Master of Magic for those of us who prefer that, but they're doing it in their own way with new factions and new bits and pieces, which is fantastic. They've done an incredibly good job. Anyway, guys, I've given it massive thumbs up from the bits I've been when I've been recording it. There are a few things that I really don't like about the game in terms of user interface. I should actually talk about the negatives. The biggest one for me is in the battle. When you go into a battle, you've got to wait for the unit to finish moving before you can then go and select and grab another unit and move it off. Every other game in the modern era allows you to give concurrent orders and string the orders together, and it'll then just the animation will be handled separately to the actual giving of the orders. But in this game it doesn't, and that's very, very clunky. There's a few little things like that where the user interface just gets in your way, but that's for me is the biggest problem. There is another one as well. I think it's just even little things like I'd prefer to be able to zoom further out than what we can. I think we can go a fair way now, but I would almost prefer to be able to go out to like a cloth map sort of style approach that like Age of Wonders might have or something like this. It is better than what it was though, to be honest. That's but I do tend to be playing pretty close in any way, but. And the mud map is actually fairly useful with what we can sort of see through here. They have added extra things in through this side as well. The surveyor mode has improved since launch. I was very scathing of this as well in terms of trying to find where to settle. It now does a better job of that, particularly if you've actually got a settler selected. I wish it was actually configurable to be on all the time. So there's just little user interface things that I do find annoying. Certainly not enough to give it the cartographer gives us an overmap. These, depending on the size of the actual map that you're playing, can be helpful or not helpful, depending on the scale. But this is you can sort of see through here. This is the Myrror plane, and then we've got the Arcanus plane back in through this side as well. It does give information, but I almost wish that this was what happened when you zoomed out. That you had this sort of information, so you could see what was actually going on. But it is good, and this is actually added in fairly recently as well. So there's lots of little additions. They're improving it all the time, and I really do. This is really an exceptionally good game. I love playing it. It's every faction plays so very, very differently, yet there's a balance to the whole sort of game. Not overly balanced, but just nicely balanced. So as I said before, massive thumbs up from me for this DLC and for the game itself. I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like this sort of content. It does help enormously. And also a special thank you to anyone who supports the channel, whether you be Patreon supporters or buy merchandise or anything at all. It's just very, very much appreciated. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. I don't know what that will be.